You don't belong here." Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. My own daughter-in-law was yelling at me in my own home. The room I had lived in for years, the place where I raised my son and dreamed of growing old peacefully. But to her, it was just too small. She stood there, arms crossed, sneering down at me like I was some unwanted guest. "Why don't you go live somewhere better? This place isn't for you anymore." My son just stood beside her, eyes cast downward, saying nothing. I felt a deep, crushing betrayal, not just from her words, but from his silence. That night, I sat alone in the cold room that suddenly felt like a prison. How had it come to this? The house that my family built, the memories etched into every corner, were slipping away from me. I had always believed family meant loyalty, respect, love, but now it felt like I was invisible, a forgotten chapter in a story I helped write. It wasn't just the room. Over the past months, the subtle looks, the whispered conversations behind my back, the way they dismissed my opinions, all signs I chose to ignore. I wanted to believe my son and his wife cared for me, but their true colors were showing, and it broke something inside me. That night, I made a decision. I would not be pushed out or erased. They thought I'd quietly disappear. They were wrong. This house worth millions was mine, and I was going to prove it. But little did I know, there were secrets hidden deep within the walls, secrets that would turn everything upside down. What I uncovered would change our family forever. My name is Sarah, and this house, my home, is where I've lived for over 3 decades. It's a sprawling mansion worth nearly $3 million, tucked away in a quiet, leafy neighborhood that once felt like a fortress of love and memories. This was the house where I raised my son, Amir, the boy who brought me endless joy and hope after my husband passed away years ago. Amir was my whole world. From the moment he was born, I poured my heart and soul into making sure he never wanted for anything. I dreamed of a happy life for him, filled with success and family, and for years it was just that peaceful, loving, familiar. But things began to change when Amir married Aisha. At first, she was everything I hoped for, warm, respectful, eager to be part of the family. She had this easy smile that lit up the room, and I believed she genuinely cared for Amir and for me. But as time went by, cracks appeared beneath that surface. Aisha wasn't the only one in our family. My daughter, Layla, lived nearby. She was the one who still checked on me regularly, the one who called me to chat about small things and brought homemade meals. Then there were my longtime friends, Mrs. Khan, who baked the best samosas in town and came over every week for tea, and Mr. Farid, my neighbor, who often helped with small repairs around the house. And of course, there was Mr. Qureshi, our trusted family lawyer, the man who handled all legal matters related to our estate. I had relied on him for years, trusting him to look out for our best interests. Despite the appearances, the family wasn't as close as it once was. Amir and Aisha's relationship with me started growing distant, and I couldn't understand why. Small things began to change, but I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I thought maybe it was just a rough patch or the stress of their new life. But that illusion shattered faster than I could imagine. I didn't come from wealth. This house, beautiful as it was, came from years of hard work, savings, and sacrifices. When Amir was just a boy, I juggled 2 jobs. I cleaned neighbors' homes during the day and cooked for a local cafe at night, all to make sure Amir had a good school, food on the table, and clothes to wear. My husband's death left me a widow too soon, with a small child to raise alone. I worked relentlessly so Amir would never feel the pain of losing a parent in any other way. We struggled, but we dreamed big, and slowly, life began to look up. I saved enough to buy this house, making sure Amir had a place to call home. Safe, warm, full of love. I was proud of what I built, but more than that, I was proud of Amir. He was a good son, kind, smart, respectful. I thought that when he married Aisha, she'd understand the sacrifices that had gone into this life. Maybe she'd respect me, help me in my old age, and cherish our family bond. I even renovated the guest room for Aisha's arrival, wanting her to feel welcome. I remember the day she moved in. Her smile was bright, and she said how much she loved the house. I was relieved, feeling like everything was finally perfect. But then the little things started slipping away. It began with quiet moment. Seisha would glance at my room with thinly veiled disdain, commenting how tiny it was, how it felt outdated, or not fit for a lady of her stature. I brushed it off, telling myself it was nothing, that she was just stressed or adjusting, but one afternoon changed everything. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I overheard her on the phone in the next room. Her voice was low. Sharp, can you believe it? Her room is so small, it's embarrassing. She should just move out. Honestly, it's pathetic. Amir's mother living like this in such a cramped space. This house needs a fresh start. I don't want to be reminded of the past. I froze. Every word hit me like a blow. Later that day, I found myself sitting with Amir, trying to voice my concerns carefully. Amir, did you hear what Aisha said? He looked away, discomfort shadowing his face. Mom, it's just how things are now. We're building our life together. Maybe it's time to let go of the old ways, but this is my home, I said, voice trembling, the place I raised you in. He sighed. Mom, don't make this harder than it is. We want you to be comfortable. Comfortable? I felt nothing but cold and unwelcome. Then came the day Aisha presented me with some papers to sign, saying they were just routine. Nervous, but trusting, I signed them. Later, when I showed them to Mr. Qureshi, he looked alarmed. These documents, he said carefully, transfer your property rights to Amir and Aisha. I felt dizzy. They were moving to take everything away, my home, my security. That night, I sat in my small room, tears streaming down my face. The people I trusted most were pushing me out. The family I loved was turning its back on me, but I vowed to myself then, this wasn't over. The first time Aisha handed me those papers, I wasn't sure what to think. She approached me with a polite smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Mom, please, just sign these, she said softly, almost coaxing. It's just some legal paperwork for the house, nothing to worry about. I hesitated. What is it exactly? Her smile tightened. It's to update the property ownership. Mr. Qureshi said it's standard procedure. I looked at Amir, hoping he'd back her up, but he just nodded silently, avoiding my eyes. Are you sure this is necessary now? I asked. I don't understand why I need to sign. It's better if we handle everything properly. Aisha said, her tone firm beneath the gentleness. I want you to be safe and comfortable. But my gut told me otherwise. The hesitation in Amir's silence unnerved me. Something was wrong. I wanted to read the papers carefully, but the legal language made it almost impossible to understand. Aisha seemed to sense my confusion. Don't worry about the details. Just trust me. I wanted to trust her, but I also wanted to protect what was mine. That night, I lay awake wrestling with fear and doubt. The next day, under pressure, I signed. The pen felt heavy in my hand, heavier than any weight I'd carried before. The moment I signed, I felt a cold chill settle deep inside. A few days later, Mr. Qureshi called me to his office. Mrs. Sarah, he began carefully. I reviewed the documents you signed. My heart thudded. These papers transfer ownership of your house to your son, Amir, and his wife, Aisha. My breath caught. Do you understand what this means? He asked. I swallowed hard. I thought I was just signing routine papers. I didn't know it meant I'd lose my rights. He nodded gravely. Legally, you have no claim over the property anymore. Unless you act quickly, this house won't be yours. I felt betrayed, but most of all, I felt scared. How could Amir and Aisha do this? My own son, the boy I raised. Was this the cost of growing older? I tried calling Amir, hoping to find answers, to appeal to the son I knew. Mom, you're making this harder than it needs to be, he said coldly. It's for the family's future. Your future or mine. I whispered. Aisha refused to answer my calls. When we met, her smile was icy, dismissive. You need to accept that times are changing, she said. We have plans that don't include the past holding us back. The family I thought I belonged to was slipping away. The house felt colder with every passing day. My presence seemed to irritate Aisha, who openly complained about my old-fashioned ways. Amir became distant, often avoiding me altogether. At a family dinner, I tried to speak up. Amir, why won't you defend me? He looked away. Mom, it's complicated. Aisha scoffed. You're clinging to a life that no longer exists. I was heartbroken. My daughter, Layla, noticed the change. She called me almost every day, offering comfort. Mom, you don't deserve this. They're wrong. Mrs. Khan and Mr. Farid stopped visiting as often, worried about the growing tension. One evening, I overheard neighbors whispering about Aisha bragging how she was taking over the house. I realized then it wasn't just about property. It was about erasing me, alone in my small room. Tears streamed down my face. I felt isolated, abandoned by those I loved, but deep inside, a spark ignited. I refused to be forgotten. Days after the tension reached a boiling point, I found myself lost in the quiet corners of the house, memories swirling around me. One afternoon, while tidying the study, an old, dusty room filled with stacks of books and forgotten papers, I noticed something odd behind a row of heavy volumes. An old, worn envelope, sealed tight and marked with my late husband's handwriting, Sarah's secret will. My heart skipped. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal, unfolded the fragile letter inside. It was addressed to me from Mr. Qureshi, the family lawyer who had handled our affairs for years. The letter explained that years ago, my husband had drawn up a secret will, one he hadn't shared with anyone else. The letter revealed that this will protected me, stating that the house and other properties were to remain mine until my death, regardless of any other documents. Only then would the estate be transferred fully to Amir. I sat down, overwhelmed. Could this letter be the missing piece to the puzzle? The evidence that would prove my rights were still intact, despite the papers I had been tricked into signing. The thought gave me a flicker of hope in the darkness. I hurried to Mr. Qureshi's office the next morning, clutching the letter like a lifeline. When I showed it to him, his usually composed face softened. "This is the original will," he confirmed quietly. "Your husband was wise to keep this confidential to protect you. But the papers Amir and Aisha had me sign, how did they get those?" I asked, confused and angry. "They likely forged or manipulated you. It's a common tactic to rush someone into signing without explaining the consequences. It's underhanded, but legally binding unless challenged." Anger bubbled within me. My son and his wife weren't just indifferent. They were deliberately scheming to take everything from me. That night, I started digging deeper. I began documenting everything: texts, overheard conversations, and notes from neighbors who had heard Aisha boasting about their plans to take control. And cut me out. With every piece of evidence, my resolve strengthened. One afternoon, I confronted Amir. "Why are you doing this? Why betray your own mother?" I asked, voice shaking. He avoided my gaze. "It's business. You don't understand." Hurt and disbelief collided inside me. Business, family. How could he put property over his own mother? With the letter as my shield and Mr. Qureshi by my side, I prepared to fight back. The coming battle wouldn't be easy. Amir and Aisha had money, lawyers, and influence. But I had truth, justice, and the strength of a mother defending what was hers. I confided in Layla, my daughter, who promised unwavering support. Mrs. Khan and Mr. Farid, my lifelong friends, rallied around me with kindness and encouragement. I started meeting with Mr. Qureshi regularly, drafting petitions, gathering witness statements, and preparing for the legal fight ahead. Some nights, doubt crept in. I worried if my own son could truly turn so cold, if this battle would break us beyond repair. But one thing was clear: I wouldn't let them erase me. Sitting in my small room, staring at the letter by the bedside lamp, I whispered, "This house is mine, and so is my dignity. I will fight until the end." The courtroom was cold and intimidating, a place I never thought I'd have to fight in, especially not against my own family. Yet here I was, standing beside Mr. Qureshi, clutching the worn letter that held the key to my future. Amir and Aisha entered confidently, surrounded by their own legal team. Their eyes briefly locked with mine, Aisha's filled with defiance, Amir's clouded with guilt, though he wouldn't admit it. The proceedings began, and I listened carefully as Mr. Qureshi laid out the facts, the existence of the secret will, the forged property transfer documents, and the manipulation they had used to try and take my home away. When it was my turn to speak, I told the court everything: the years of love and sacrifice I'd poured into this house, the shock of betrayal, and my resolve to protect what was rightfully mine. "I built this home for my family," I said, voice steady despite the tears welling in my eyes. "I never imagined I would have to fight them to keep it, but I will not be erased." The judge's gaze was firm but compassionate. After hours of arguments, testimonies, and cross-examinations, the verdict came. The property rights would revert to me, Sarah, until my death, as my husband's original will decreed. Relief crashed over me in waves. This house was finally mine again, not just by law, but by heart. Word of the court's decision spread quickly. Neighbors and friends who had been uncertain before now whispered openly about Amir and Aisha's greed. Invitations to social gatherings ceased. Once, smiling acquaintances turned cold or avoided the family altogether. Amir's reputation, once pristine, was tarnished. One afternoon, as I was tending the garden, I saw Amir approach hesitantly. His shoulders were slumped, and his voice was shaky as he spoke. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please forgive me." I looked at him, the boy I had raised with so much love, now a man I barely recognized. My heart ached, but I knew that forgiveness was not a simple gift. "Amir," I said firmly, "sorry isn't enough. You lost my trust. Respect is not given freely. It must be earned." He nodded silently, then turned and left without another word. Aisha, isolated and stripped of her control, retreated into herself. Her brash confidence gave way to quiet bitterness. The house, once full of tension and schemes, now echoed with the absence of those who had tried to claim it by force. In the weeks that followed, I focused on healing, not just of the house, but of my spirit. I rekindled my bond with Layla, who had stood by me through the worst. Mrs. Khan and Mr. Farid, friends who had supported me quietly, became my pillars of strength. I set clear boundaries with Amir and Aisha, deciding when and how to engage, no longer allowing their actions to dictate my peace. Slowly, the house transformed. What was once a battleground became a sanctuary again. I spent mornings in the garden, afternoons with old friends, and evenings wrapped in quiet reflection. One day, sitting on the porch, I whispered to the breeze, "Respect matters more than money," and now they know it too. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also taught me the value of dignity, love, and self-worth. After the storm had passed and the dust settled on what felt like a battlefield, I was left alone with my thoughts and the quiet walls of my home. The betrayal by my own son and daughter-in-law cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. For weeks, I struggled with anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could the people I loved most betray me like this? But as the days turned into weeks, I realized that holding on to anger would only chain me to pain. Forgiveness wasn't easy, and it didn't mean forgetting what had happened or pretending it was okay. Instead, it was about freeing myself from bitterness and reclaiming my peace. I started small, practicing gratitude for what I still had. I reached out to old friends, found comfort in their company, and began to rediscover joy in everyday moments. The garden, once a backdrop to conflict, became my sanctuary. Each flower I nurtured was a step towards healing. I also began to understand Amir, not to excuse his actions, but to see the fear and pressure that had blinded him. Our conversations, though tentative and painful, slowly opened a path toward reconciliation. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination, and mine was just beginning. The ordeal taught me something invaluable. Respect matters far more than money. In the quiet moments of reflection, I thought back on all the years of sacrifice, how every penny I saved, every hardship I endured was for family. And yet, when the chips were down, respect was the first casualty. Money can buy houses, cars, and luxuries, but it can never buy love, dignity, or respect. I learned to set boundaries, not just with Amir and Aisha, but with anyone who didn't honor my worth. Protecting oneself emotionally is as vital as protecting one's home. I also saw how greed could poison relationships, turning love into suspicion and family into strangers, but I chose to believe in the power of healing, connection, and true respect. Sitting here today, in the home that is finally mine again, I feel stronger, wiser, and at peace. This journey through betrayal, loss, and recovery has changed me. It has shown me the depth of my own resilience and the importance of standing firm in one's truth. To anyone listening, remember this: material things can be taken away, but your dignity and self-respect are yours to keep. My final words to my family, and to all who hear my story, are simple but profound. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too.